Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be filming a tutorial on how to do single crochet. So I do have just a little sample right here. Admittedly, it's because I filmed this video once before and then didn't like the way it turned out. So I have this little sample here then of single crochet. So I'll kind of just let you look at that while I talk about it a little bit. So single crochet is probably one of the easiest, if not the easiest, stitch to learn when first learning to crochet. So it's a great stitch for beginners, but it's also one you're going to use throughout your career crocheting. So it's important for both beginners and experienced crocheters to learn. As you can see, it's a very tight stitch. Sometimes if you pull stitches apart, you'll see the holes in between them. These you kind of do see those holes, but just slightly and only in certain places. So as you can see, it's, like I said, a very tight stitch. This can make working larger projects take a lot longer, but if you want more of that opaque look, single crochet is the way to go. So I'll set this aside and then get into the materials you're going to need today. So first of all, you're going to need some yarn. So I have some Crafter's Secret cotton right here. I think down here it's in the color Weathered Teal, if it would focus on it. There we go, Weathered Teal. Like I said, this is cotton. That's because I'm going to be making this into a washcloth or dishcloth today, just to make this into a project. You don't have to do this, especially if you're a beginner crocheter and you just want to practice the stitches. You can use any type of yarn you would like. But like I said, I'm going to be making this into a dish towel or washcloth, so I'm using cotton. If you're going to make one into a dishcloth or something like that as well, make sure you're using cotton. Always use cotton if this work is going to come into contact with heat or moisture. So the second thing you're going to need today is a crochet hook. Today, it's super dark. You're probably not going to be able to see it since it's the same color almost as the hook. I'm going to be using a 5mm hook. The hook that I'm using is aluminum here on the end, but then has this rubber grip just because it feels a lot better in my hand. You can use any type of hook that you'd like today. I recommend, if you're a beginner, using an aluminum hook just because I found that those work better for beginners, but whatever you have is fine. I recommend using a size 4mm to 5mm hook if you're going to be using a lighter weight 3 sport weight yarn or a weight 4 worsted weight yarn. The last thing you're going to need today is a pair of scissors. I just have these old scissors. They're not anything special. You don't need anything crazy, but they do need to be able to cut through yarn. Sometimes when scissors start to get a little bit dull, you have trouble cutting through yarn. You have to pull yarn to a certain tightness and try and cut, pushing the blades together. It's a whole pain in the butt. So make sure you have a good pair of yarn cutting scissors for the end of the project when you need to finish off. Alright, so now that we've covered materials, I'm going to go ahead and start getting right into the tutorial. So first you're going to take your yarn, which I've got here. I've started to kind of unwind it and then it fell apart a little bit, so it unwound a little bit more than I would have liked. I'm just going to set this to the side for now. I will end up using that yarn, so it's okay. I'll get back that yarn end. I did take it out of the wrapping, out of the package, just because it's a lot easier for me this way. Usually I do try and find the middle of the yarn because it's easier to pull it from the middle of a skein, but since it's a small skein here, I don't mind pulling from the outside. And like I said before, this is Crafter's Secret cotton in the color Weathered Teal. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to take my hook to do this. Actually, I'll move these scissors out of my way. You have to make a slip knot. So it's super easy. I'm going to have a video just on this at some point. I'll link that down below. But I'll go over it real quick right here. So you can use your hook to make a slip knot, or you can just use your fingers. It's totally up to you, although I usually use my hook. So first things first, grab the yarn between your first finger and your thumb, leaving a little bit extra. You can leave a lot extra if you'd like. I probably will leave a little bit more today. I recommend if you're a beginner, go ahead and leave some more extra here. It's going to mean you have a longer tail to weave in later, but I find that's much easier to work with as a beginner. I'm going to move it a little bit further in my finger. So you're going to have to wrap the yarn around your first finger once, and wrap it around twice to make a little X on your finger. So first I will show you how to do it with just your fingers, so you don't have to worry about holding the hook as well. What you do is you just pull this up, so you can't hold the yarn too tight or you won't be able to pull it up. So kind of hold it loosely, not too loosely. Pull it up, just sneak your finger under and grab that the other kind of top side of that X. And you're just going to grab this side, make sure you don't let go, and grab both of these strands of yarn, the one that connects to the rest of the skein and that tail, and you pull it tight until there's a knot right there. At this point, you're going to put it on your hook, grab the two ends, and pull it tight. So I'm going to show you that one more time, and I'll go ahead and put my use my hook to do it. So if for some reason you don't like the way that your slip knot turned out, say you tightened it too much and now you can't get it on your hook, anything like that, all you need to do is grab these two sides and pull, and it'll pop right out. So let's do that one more time. So you grab that end, wrap around your first finger once, twice to make that X. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my hook. I still pull this part up with my fingers, that kind of top loop of the X. Just put my hook under, and then I grab this loop. That way I kind of pull it around, so when I pull on these, it makes that slip knot right on the hook. You can do it either way. I like this because it just puts the slip knot right on the hook for me, but I found that the other way is a lot easier for beginners. When you're trying to hold the hook and the yarn and everything, it can get a little bit tricky. So now that we've got our yarn on the hook, we're going to go ahead and chain 20. So to chain, it's called yarn over. You're going to yarn over. It just means looping that yarn around your hook. Once you do that, you're going to pull it through that slip knot. And there you go. That's one chain. So we're going to do it a couple more times and then get all the way to 20. You can do any length that you like. If you're just practicing stitches, you don't have to go all the way to 20. Or if you're wanting to make a larger project, you can always do more than 20. It's not going to affect the way your project turns out, or the way the tutorial will play out for your project. So that was one. So we're going to do the same thing. So you just put the yarn around, make sure you get it with that top of the hook, and pull it through the loop. That's 2. So you yarn over, pull it through the loop on your hook. Whoop. I'm trying to look at it through the camera and it makes it a little difficult. There we go. There's 3. Just do it again. 4, 5, and you're going to do that all the way to 20. So when I get to 20, I'll meet you guys back here. All right, so I have chained 20 chains right here. Now yours might be looking a little bit looser than mine. Your stitches might be looking more like these, or they might be tighter stitches like these down here. Either way is fine. It's just based on your tension, which means how tightly you're holding that yarn. As you grow in crochet, you're going to learn how to have better tension, although I admit that's something I still struggle with. It can be pretty difficult, but it won't affect your project if you have super loose stitches or super tight stitches here. As long as you can still fit that crochet hook through those stitches, you're good to go. So now that you have 20 stitches, or however many stitches you'd like, or chains I should say rather than stitches, you're just going to chain one more. Just going to chain one more. This isn't going to affect the length of your project. It's just going to work to get us up to the height of the next row. So now that we've gotten up to that next height, we're going to look, and of course we got to the darker part of the yarn, so it might be a little bit harder to see. You can see there's a loop here. That's the chain that I just made. So we don't want to go back into that one. We want to skip that and go to the second chain from our hook. And we're going to just go right through the top of that stitch. I'm trying to look at the camera and do it. There we go. Now you're just going to go through the top part of that stitch. So you're going to have another loop now on your hook. Don't worry, you are supposed to have 2 loops on your hook. Once you're in that stitch, you want to yarn over, and you're going to pull that yarn back through that stitch. So now there's going to be yarn coming through that chain, and you're going to have 2 loops on your hook still. At this point, you're going to yarn over one more time and pull it through both the loops on your hook. And there you go. That's your first single crochet stitch. So let's just do that another time. You just go into the very next stitch, or very next chain, go through the top, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. I'll show you one more time, and then I'll go ahead and go to the end of the row and show you what to do when you get there. So you go through that next chain, yarn over, and pull through just that first loop, just through the chain. You're going to loop over, or yarn over again, and pull through both loops. So then that's 3 single crochet stitches. Don't be alarmed if your work kind of makes little holes like this. As you can see in those last chains, or last 2 stitches, it's already fixed itself. So you don't have to worry about that. It's just going to do that as you go along. It's going to fix itself in the end, I promise. Just try not to pull too much on it, and it will correct itself. If not, it means your tension's off and you're holding this yarn too loosely. And to fix that, you just have to think about holding it tighter and focus on that. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch all the way to the end. And when I get to that 20th stitch, I'll meet you guys back here and show you what to do to go on to the next row. Alright everybody, so I've made it back to the end of the row and I actually have one stitch left. I just want to make sure you know to get this last stitch. So you'll see there's still that space there, and that's going to be the first chain that you made. And then this bump right here, that's your original slip knot. So don't worry about trying to force your crochet hook into that little bump. That's not one of your chain stitches, that's your slip knot. But you do want to make sure you get this last chain here. So it's going to be worked the exact same way. You just push through the top part of that chain, yarn over, pull it through the first loop, yarn over, and pull it through both loops. So now we've made it to the other side of our work here. So now what we're going to do, now you could flip it over now. I always do this part first. You're going to yarn over and then just chain one. Okay, so once you chain one, now we're going to turn our work. That just means you're going to flip it over to the other side. You can always tell because this yarn tail is going to follow which way I turn it. As you can see, mine's a little bit jagged in places. That's because my tension is a little bit off, and also it tends to show more when using cotton yarn. So let's go ahead and get started on the second row. So the first thing we're going to do is go into this first stitch right here. So when you go through the stitch on this row, it's going to look a little bit different. You're going to see almost a little V on your hook, but this is going to be just one loop, okay? When you go through the stitch, that doesn't count as two loops, it just counts as one. And we're going to do the same stitch we did on the first row. You're just going to yarn over, pull through, counting that as just one loop. Once you're on the other side, you're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. So let's go into the next stitch. And see, you can kind of pull apart, see the little space there. Go ahead, put your hook through there, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. Now you're going to do this all the way across until you get to the other side. When you get to the other side, you're going to treat it just like we've treated the second row. And you're going to chain one after your last stitch, and then single crochet, the same stitch we've been doing here, where you push through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through both loops. You're just going to do that stitch all the way across, row after row, making sure you chain one at the end of every row. Now, if your work starts to curve, say it gets wider or smaller and it's starting to make a big difference, you might be either missing a chain on your rows, or missing a stitch rather on your rows, or you're adding a stitch somehow, either by putting two stitches into the same stitch or by adding on somehow at the end. It's super easy to fix. All you have to do is count your stitches as you go along. So like I said, I started with 20 because that last chain doesn't count. It only put us up to the next row. So I did just have 20 chains, so 20 stitches in each row. As I go, I just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on until I get to 20 to make sure I'm doing the right number. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this to the length I want it to be at, however many rows that's going to be. I'm going to try and aim for a square, and then I'll show you how to finish off. So I have just finished my final row. So my work is now looking like a square, or at least close enough for me. Gotta get that out of the way. So as you can see, I just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, as many rows as I needed to make this the length that I wanted it to be. You can also see I've got different colors throughout mine, a darker and lighter blue. That's just because I used a variegated yarn. If you didn't use a variegated yarn, if you're all one color, that's not going to happen. But as you can see, the yarn I used is both light and dark. So don't worry about that. So like I said, I just finished my last row all the way across. I've already single crocheted that last stitch. This is only pulled out so far so it didn't unravel. So this is the point you'll be at. Once you've single crocheted in that last stitch, it's super easy. You're just going to chain one like normal, but you're going to pull it out a little bit. Now you can pull it out super far, you can just pull it out a little bit. I usually pull it out probably just to this length. I'm not always good at measuring, maybe 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So I'm going to set down my crochet hook and grab my pair of scissors. You just kind of put them right in that loop and snip. It's super easy. You're just going to grab the yarn connected to the skein, pull that out of there. You can set it aside. Alright, so now that that yarn's gone, we're just going to take this end and pull it as tight as we can. I always hold on to this stitch here just to make sure that we don't pull any stitches out of their shape. We don't make anything look too stretched out or wide. So I just hold on to that as I pull, and you want to pull super tight. You want to make sure that it's not going to come undone. And there you go. So now we're going to have to go back and weave those ends in. You can either do that with a yarn needle, or you could just use your crochet hook as well and just start pulling it through. Kind of pull it through one way, pull it through the other way, or you can just leave them be, but definitely weave them in one way or another before snipping off the ends. If you snip it off here, it could start to unravel. But then this is our finished project. I've just made a little washcloth here. It could also be used as a hot pad in the kitchen since I've used cotton yarn. But this is a great way to be able to make something, have something to show for all your time, while also practicing a stitch. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. If it was helpful, go ahead and leave a comment down below telling me how helpful it was, or tell me what you made. I'd love to hear from you guys, hear what different projects you've made or what you're excited to make. And while you're down there leaving a comment, go ahead and leave a like down there as well. You just click that little like button. It just helps me out. It lets me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. It helps my channel out as well. And like I said, it just makes me feel good to know that I'm making content that you guys like. While you're down there as well, go ahead and click that little subscribe button down there. That way you don't miss an upload from me, as long as you also click that little notification bell. That way you don't miss any tutorials, a crochet podcast, quick tips, anything like that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoy your new crocheted work. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.